I want to start this video with something positive. 34 amp hours is where we're at, but look at the maximum. It's still showing 34.4. That means in 1 month's time, we've only lost 0.1 amp hours since Mitsubishi worked on my car. So that is a positive effect from the cell smoothing and tooling around with the BMU that they've done. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a James Bond movie. Espionage abounds. We have a British informant who has information for us. We'll go over his take on some documents that he received from Mitsubishi in direct contact with them. I'll give you guys my opinion on it. We've had a back and forth. We'll fill you guys in on that. I don't agree necessarily on everything. There were rumors going around stating that within these documents there was information that basically Mitsubishi was saying, yes, that degradation is ours. That's our software. We take responsibility for that, and we're not going to change it. That is false. The statement in those documents simply says the software is theirs. What I take from that is that it's not third party. It is Mitsubishi software. We will look at that document. I'll show you guys that. And they're saying they will not change it. So that is the bad part. You have customers who are complaining and saying, hey, there's a real issue here, close to 20% drop on vehicles within 1 year that needs to be addressed. And they're stating right in this document, we will not change that. Also in those documents, question and answer segment, there are 3 false statements made by Mitsubishi. I will go over those statements with you guys. This is my wife's car. That is a 2014 Subaru Crosstrek. So we were a Subaru family. We've had 3 of them in a row before the PHEV. That is the most annoying thing about this whole issue is I spent a year prepping my wife saying, take the Outlander, drive the Outlander, get used to the Outlander. We could use 2 of them because with the kids and all the running around we do, it's the perfect vehicle for a plug-in. This is what she's currently driving. And now she agrees that with battery issues which may not be resolved, we can't purchase one of those. We have about a year's time here, so we're looking. And they've come out with a new PHEV Crosstrek. So right off the hop, she loves her Crosstrek. Right off the hop, she's now pushing that she wants the Crosstrek. So we'll see where this goes. I tried to float the idea of the Kona, which some of you guys pointed me in that direction. 420 kilometer range. Not going to work up here in Northern Ontario. There are many times when she has to take her vehicle to Toronto, which would facilitate just rolling into Toronto on, you know, a tiny little bit of energy left in the tank. You would have to find somewhere to charge. And that's not going to happen up here. We just can't take that risk. You wouldn't want to be stranded. So she said, absolutely not. We are not going full electric anytime soon. So the foot has been put down on that. Okay, so I just want to quickly go over my British informant's information. He sent me these documents. This is in regards to his case out of the UK. So we could say that these may or may not apply to some people, but let's go through the information that he's received from them because it could give us information on their general attitude towards customer service and how they're going to deal with these issues as they crop up in various countries. So this first document here is basically explaining his case, saying that he has, as of January, 36.2 amp hours, and they're rating his battery only out of 38, not 40, which I found strange. So they do the calculations and they say basically that at 70%, he could then get a battery replacement and that all of his voltage is correct and that this is normal battery degradation. Okay, so this is what they're saying in this particular case. You guys can pause the screen and read this first document, which is pertaining to just his case. On this second document here, it says, and I'm going to read this. Thank you for your email. I can confirm that the information supplied came from Mitsubishi Motors Corporation Engineering. The way the BMU controls the battery and calculates the SOH was a decision made by Mitsubishi Motors Corporation and will not be changed. Some people online were construing this statement to say, this is the way we've set it up that there is an actual artificial degradation input here through our software. Too bad for you, we're not going to change it. When I read this statement, that is not what I get. The statement I get is that they are owning the software, saying it is our software. It is not third party. It was made that way for a reason, and no, we are not going to change it, which is the bad part. Okay, so regardless of who made it, the fact is they're saying they're not going to change it, which is not great, as we'll see, because there's contradictory information here coming up in the next few documents. This information supplied by the dongle will be close to that supplied by the dealer because it is regarding the same calculated data from the BMU as their diagnostic equipment, but is not actual data. The only way to get an accurate reading of the SOH from the battery is when dbcam drive battery auto capacity measurement, which has already been carried out for your vehicle, resulting in a capacity increase. This procedure flattens the battery and recharges it whilst being closely monitored by the BMU. So that statement there is one of the ones that I would argue and say, I'm not the maker of the PHEV Watchdog app, but I've been told, and many online have been told, the PHEV Watchdog app is simply reading the information from the car exactly like the MUT tool that they use when they're looking at and calibrating our cars. So that statement there could be argued as false. We would need to get, the makers of PHEV Watchdog app to go on record and say, no, we're just reading that, but I believe that statement there to be false. And my dealer in town here actually is using a dongle and the PHEV Watchdog app on some of their test cars around town, monitoring to see, hey, what kind of results are they getting as well. This third document here, this one is interesting. The battery capacity for my 14 to 18 PHEV is 40 amp hours, but there are statements that only 38 is used in daily operation. Their reply to that is, the earlier vehicle was calibrated with a value of 38 amp hours, and also the EV range was tested with the 38 amp hours. Purpose was to compensate for possible battery degradation during transport from manufacturing plant to final customer. After the start of usage of the vehicle by the customer, the BMU software adjusts the calculated SOH closed to the actual SOH during normal charging. I think they meant to say close to. So there is a communication issue here with English as well, but in time, the full capacity of the battery will be used. Because of this logic, we do not consider changing this. Changing the BMU initial value of 38 amp hours on earlier model to 40 amp hours by simply performing BMU initialization would not gain any EV range, as actual SOH of the battery is different. I call false on both of these statements. We now know that in multiple countries and hundreds of cars, the BMU software never adjusts our amp hour numbers upwards, only down. We all have downward curves that are close to 20% after 1 year of use. So then to say that the BMU is going to adjust this to battery state is not correct at all. If that were the case, we would see amp hours going up. If a customer bought a car that was only a week old and the battery was 40 amp hours, therefore the software should adjust to bring the battery up to 40 amp hours. We never see that. We see a starting of 38 and a continual dropping. 0.1 amp hours every 1, 2, or 3 weeks. The second part of this, 38 amp hours will not matter if they add the extra 2 amp hours back onto the top of the battery. I'm sorry, but we did a calculation. 0.221 amp hours is how far I can go 1 kilometer. So therefore, by adding 2 full amp hours back to my battery, I would therefore go further. That's just plain physics. You can't, if you have more power, you will go further. So again, 2 false statements right here on this document. The second portion of this document they're talking about, is the MMC considering to introduce a capacity measurement during maintenance to recalibrate the calculated SOH? What a mouthful. What they're talking about is state of charge. What we're talking about is actual capacity level. So they seem to be talking about 2 different things here. The answer was, no, we do not, as explained. The calculated state of charge will over time, through normal charging procedure, adjust to match as close as possible to the actual state of charge of the battery. We know that is not true. So again, they're talking state of charge. We're talking battery capacity here, full battery capacity of maximum amp hours. For vehicles which are not used under normal European driving conditions and never charged via normal charging, I don't know what they're assuming there, that people are just driving around and charging through the charge button. I don't know what this statement means. Where the BMU criteria for adjustment are not met, it could be beneficial to perform a forced capacity measurement. In general, when vehicles are regularly charged by normal charging, it is not required to perform such forced calibration. Again, we know that's not true. We just keep losing amp hours over time. So any of the writing that are on these documents is not mine, guys, so we can just take it or leave it. Are we talking actual degradation of the PHEV capacity? No, the issue is about how the battery monitoring unit calculates the expected degradation. And these have been highlighted by the owner of these documents, and that's exactly what we're talking about. This is a guess by the software saying there could be a degradation here, let's account for it, let's drop our 0.1 amp hours. The problem is they never set a lower limit on that drop. So our batteries continue to drop down to 70% or below, and they replace the battery. Absolute wrong way to do this. You are now replacing batteries that don't need it, and people are losing capacity over time. Back in the day in 2014 when this software was created, nobody was tracking this, and that's exactly where this came from. People got in and drove and they just assumed, hey, I'm getting pretty good free kilometers here on electric today, and they never thought anything about it. And maybe that's the way they thought it would always be, but that's not the case. When these programs like PHEV Watchdog came out and people could start tracking, hey, I'm losing on a regular basis amp hours, something's not right here. This should have been addressed, and it wasn't. And that is our concern, guys, that there's no lower limit to this expectation of degradation that they've written into the software. Maybe they can't fix this at this point, and that's why it hasn't been fixed. We don't know, because there's no communication to us from Mitsubishi Japan. At the very bottom of this document, it also states, therefore, a software update is not necessary. Again, that would be a totally inappropriate thing to say, because you're basically limiting your options to, no, we are never going to adjust this, we are never going to change this, even if customers bring to us an actual found issue, which we have. Their hard line here at the bottom is, updates aren't necessary, we're not going to do anything about it. And on that previous document I showed you, we're not going to change this. So this is a very hard line has been set by Mitsubishi. Now, in the opposite reality of that, they have changed batteries in units. Australia, their group had batteries changed. I have had, the option has been given to me to have a battery change. So again, there's a bit of leeway here. The problem is that as environmentalists, we don't just want batteries changed. Andy on Unplugged EV had his battery changed, and again, he's going through the exact same problem with the new battery. It's losing amp hours. That is not the solution. So we need to figure out, why is it that they can't just rewrite this code, come up with a firmware update, and solve this problem. And the final thing I want to talk about is I sent Kyle an email on Monday. Let me pull that email up and I'll actually read it to you guys. On Sunday night, I sent my local dealer here, Kyle, my sales guy, an email saying, hey Kyle, any word on my open case? Has Japan forgotten about me and my PHEV? I'm very tempted to contact them directly. I don't know that this will further my case, but come on, it's been a month now and I have heard nothing from anyone. If I did that to any of my mining contacts, I wouldn't have a job. It's like they just don't care. And that's the truth of it. And Andy was complaining about the same thing. What customer service company can do this where they just don't answer people? Now, I want to be very clear on this part. I feel that the local dealership here is out of the loop as well as myself. If there's a pyramid here and Mitsubishi Japan is at the top, underneath there is my local dealer, and underneath them is myself. So I feel that they are actually being honest and trying to help, but they are out of the loop as well. And I believe that's purposely done by Mitsubishi Japan. Otherwise, they would have protocols in place saying, these are the steps we're going to take on PHEVs when they come in with this issue or that issue. And my local guys don't seem to know anything about that. They're contacting them, they're on the phone with them as they're working on my vehicle going, how come this doesn't work? How come that didn't work? What are the next steps? We don't know. We have to wait to hear from Japan. So that tells us right there, we know there are no protocols in place for working on these vehicles in terms of battery degradation, at least. Let me know what the next steps are and when they want to get moving on this. Well, after this email was sent on Sunday, Tuesday afternoon, I received a call from the local dealer, the service manager, requesting that I bring the car in next week. So we're going to do that again. And I want to say, honestly, I believe they are trying their darnest to get this solved. And I feel that they're out of the loop as well as myself. So I don't want my irritation and anger in any way, Kyle. This isn't about you guys. I feel that we're all out of the loop here. I just want it to be open and honest, and there should be an easy solution to this. The final point that I want to make there is I asked the service manager again. Great. He said Japan had contacted them. They want my car in there ASAP and they want to get working on it. Somebody's watching my video somewhere. I asked him, what are the next steps? What are they going to do to the car? He said he doesn't know. He will get me that information. He will also get me the information which I requested back at the beginning of May, what they did in my car last time. But he doesn't have that. He doesn't know. So I'm bringing the car in on Monday, and they still don't know what they're going to be doing to it. So again, that's where consumer frustration, customer frustration can rise, because there is no plan of action. I want to be part of that plan of action. I want to know what's going to happen to the car, and right now we don't. So that's all I have for you guys in this update. Stay tuned. I'll let you know after Monday. Fingers, toes, eyebrows, eyes, everything crossed. Let's get this fixed.